What you just heard is my worst sounding record that I own. The worst sounding record that's in my collection, and is the soundtrack for the movie Superman 2. And the way it sounded now is the way it sounded then when I first cracked it open. And it was even as warped as it is now. It's a little more warped now than it was before, but it was warped when I first bought it. But this is not going to be a rant about records. This is actually going to be a rant, to be a thing for records. And something I wanted to talk about before in the previous video about has-to-be mastering is going to carry over to this one here. And it's about vinyl itself. It might be an audiophile pressing. It might be pressed on audiophile vinyl. I sort of touched on this in the previous video about has-to-be mastering and how has-to-be mastered records were oftentimes pressed on quiet premium vinyl. Well, at the same time, the record companies themselves, at least in America, often release regular releases of their albums, of artist albums, that were pressed on premium vinyl and no one may never know about it. Or it was on a hype sticker that was pressed for the promo version of the album or a limited edition version of the album. Premium vinyl is known by several different brand names. Quiet is the most common name for it because it's one that appears a lot on hype stickers for releases from Geffen Records and from labels associated with Warner Brothers Records here in America. And also KC600 is another brand name that was tied more to A&M Records. Now last year in 2019, I bought about maybe 4 brand new off-the-shelf vinyl records. Of those 4 that I bought that I could recall, I think 3 of them had a label stating that it was pressed on audiophile vinyl with 180 gram weight presses and such as that. Today, it's hard to know what makes up an audiophile pressing. It really does, because all the things that made those records back in the day when I bought them at the peak of sales for music are now gone. I don't know what actually comprises what makes a record be a audiophile vinyl pressing record these days, except for the hype sticker that's on the front cover. But back in the day, it was quite easy to find these things. And all you had to do was, if you suspected a record that you owned may be an audiophile pressing, was simply take it, hold it up to a bright light, and see if it's translucent. So all this goes back to Mobile Fidelity. When they promoted their albums, they also promoted how quiet they were and how superior they were to mass market records because they were pressed in Japan using very high quality vinyl made by JVC. Warner Brothers Records and its associate labels and A&M Records were the main purveyors of this type of vinyl. You just had to take a chance, hold up to the light, and hopefully you may have one, you might not have one. Like Simple Minds or The Police or Supertramp, chances are you might have one in your collections, especially if it's one of their last albums. They're easy to spot, and the record may glow translucent brown, like a syrupy color, like syrup, or translucent blue. Now, I'm not totally certain about this, but I believe this is more of an American thing. Records probably apply to mainly the American market. I don't know why that is, but I think that's mainly the case. I have not run across many import albums that were pressed on translucent vinyl. But then again, some may have. And all we can find out, again, is to take the record up, hold up to the light, and see if the light shines through. Now, other record companies in the US also did this on a regular basis, particularly like GRP Records, which is a jazz label, ECM Records, which I love I don't have very many albums by them, but the few albums I do have on ECM Records, at least in America, were all pressed on of quiet vinyl. Now, if you want to find these records out there in the flea markets and the used record stores and everything, I would use this criteria. Look for albums that were released between 1982 to 1994. And make sure it's done by a top tier, a premium recording artist. Yeah, some of the lesser known artists got premium releases like that. Let's say if your artist is The Police, I would look for the album Synchronicity for one. If you like Sting, I look for Sting. I have Sting's first album, and his 12-inch 45 single is also a premium. Try to find the Neil Young. I had Trans. I think they probably did the same thing for Everybody's Rocking. And anything he did for Geffen Records during that time when he was on that label. And also maybe look for artists that were on Geffen Records mid to late 90s, like Donna Summer. Don't tear your record collection apart trying to find one of these records because they're fairly rare. But if you have one out in your collection that sounds exceptionally great, exceptionally quiet, it might be one of these records, and it might be worth looking into. You can spend an afternoon going through there and trying to pick out the best of your records, and it might be one. And again, I believe this is more of an American phenomenon. Go through used record stores and flea markets and everything. Some may pop up. You may never know. You may find one. Who knows? But that's why we're here, because we all like to show off not our equipment, but like to show off our collection. And those of us who are not buying records as often as the rest of you guys out there may want to give you something to look forward to while out there searching for good stuff. So before I close this out, I want to bring up two things. Right after I did the video, after I released the video about Has to Be Mastering on the Facebook page and on the YouTube channel, a thread cropped up on the Steve Hoffman forums about Has to Be Mastering. Is it bogus, or is it a real thing, or something like that, or is it real, or is it fake, or is it just marketing? But the thread's still ongoing to this very day, and I don't know if anybody in the community follows this guy, but there's a guy on YouTube. His name is John Darko. He is a British expatriate who lives in Berlin. He's a writer, and he has his own web channel. He has his own YouTube channel. He's an audiophile. He writes about records. He writes about equipment and everything. And his last video that he did last week, he talks about his two turntables and what equipment he uses to play his records. And it's kind of funny because as I was watching it, he sort of covered the very same things I covered in the video that I did back in mid-December. Virtually, almost word for word what I covered, he did the same thing. So I don't see any point in the lawsuit. I think imitation is the greatest form of flattery, and I'm happy for him. And the guy, he's a good guy. I think he's a good guy. I like his stuff, and I think he's worth following on. I think he has a Facebook page too, but he does videos on his YouTube channel, and it's worth subscribing. So go out there. Search, my friends. Look for records. Look for these records. Look for Target CDs at the same time too. Don't forget those Target CDs are still out there. If you come across those, or in the case of the UK, they're swirl CDs because they have the Vertigo label, I believe. Those are more valuable here, probably in the United States, than they are back in the UK. Because I know friends of mine who would sell their children for a good swirl. If they could get Dire Straits' first album in the Vertigo swirl CD, they will definitely do it. Anyway, so go out there, keep playing those records, keep buying those CDs, and then keep showing us what you have in your collection, because some of us are living vicariously through you. Bye.